Let me now introduce His Excellency Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves, to whom I give the floor. Sir, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, welcome to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The government and people of my country are very pleased once again to host the Caribbean seminar on the eradication of colonialism. We welcome the members of the United Nations Special Committee on Decolonization, in particular its chairman, Ambassador Francisco Carrion Mena. We are very happy to host the UN Secretariat, the NGO community, and most of all the representatives of the non-self-governing territories that have made the trip to St. Vincent and the Grenadines for this important activity. St. Vincent and the Grenadines places tremendous importance on the work of this committee. In addition to being members of the special committee, we have in the past served as chair in the person of former Ambassador Margaret Hughes Ferrari. We have also hosted this seminar in the past, and we are proud to do so again. I hope that in addition to the important work that you have gathered here to complete, you will also have an opportunity to explore our archipelago and enjoy our unequaled Vincentian hospitality. I don't know if you know it, we are a chain of 32 islands, St. Vincent being the main island, or the largest island, I shouldn't say the main, the largest island, and the other beautiful gems between here and Grenada. If you get a chance, you should really go and take it in. And I don't know how many of you are going to get to this part of the world again to see, for instance, the beautiful Carrion, the Tobago Keys, and there's an island which is called the land of the rich and the famous, Mustique. You should go there. I can't afford to live there either, so. You may well, if you go to Mustique, see some of your favorite stars singing karaoke, just walking on the beach. We don't get too awestruck by royalty or celebrities. We take them all in our stride. Mr. Chairman, a distinguished son of our Caribbean civilization, the late Bob Marley, penned a seminal commentary on African liberation struggles and the often violent battles of our African brothers to free themselves from colonial shackles. That song, titled Zimbabwe, began with a simple, powerful truism: every man got a right to decide his own destiny. Marley's truth is embraced, and only slightly less poetically, by the United Nations Declaration on the Granting of Independence to Colonial Countries and Peoples. In addition to recognizing the right to self-determination and the freedom of all peoples to exercise their sovereignty and integrity of their national territory, the UN Declaration also stated unequivocally that the subjection of peoples to alien subjugation, domination and exploitation constitutes a denial of fundamental human rights. It is that continuing question of the fundamental rights of 2 million people scattered across 16 territories which is at the core of this week's meeting of the Special Committee. It is true to say that the heyday of naked colonialism is now thankfully behind us. Since the founding of the United Nations, populations numbering in the aggregate in excess of 1 billion people, have freed themselves from the subjugation and exploitation of colonialism. Countless numbers of these people made the ultimate sacrifice for their country's freedom. And many chapters of our modern history are written in the blood of peoples whose nationalist struggles made them heroes in the global anti-colonialist battles. However, sadly, colonialism has yet to recede completely into historical memory. This year marks the beginning of the United Nations' third international decade for the eradication of colonialism. The Declaration on the Granting of Independence to Colonial Countries and Peoples is now 50 years old. And yet the rights of 2 million people to decide their own destiny is still denied. 50 years ago, the United Nations solemnly proclaimed the necessity of bringing to a speedy and unconditional end colonialism in all its forms and manifestations. Judged by the standard of that proclamation, our continued and collective failure to wipe out the remaining pockets of unbridled colonialism remains a blot on the common resolve of the international community and on the individual states that maintain some form of this practice. Today, the overwhelming majority of non-self-governing territories are small, with the 500,000 people of Western Sahara and the 250,000 people of Guam being by far the largest of the remaining territories under the Special Committee's review. But to a small nation like ours, whose 110,000 persons achieved independence 31 years ago, the need to complete the decolonization exercise remains fresh, relevant, and urgent. There is no nation so small that its people forfeit the right to make a sovereign determination as to their own destiny and their relationship with colonial powers. In the Caribbean region, the Special Committee has considerable work yet to complete. 7 of the 16 non-self-governing territories on the Special Committee's agenda are located in our region. These are Anguilla, Bermuda, the British Virgin Islands, Cayman Islands, Montserrat, Turks and Caicos Islands, and the United States Virgin Islands. With the exception of the United States Virgin Islands, all of those territories named are either members or associate members of the Caribbean Community CARICOM. And the fundamental human rights of our neighbors, brothers and sisters, are of paramount importance to our region. In recent years, CARICOM has expressed its particular concern with the decisions by the government of the United Kingdom to suspend the Constitution, postpone elections, and impose direct rule on the peoples of the Turks and Caicos Islands, an associate member of our community. We remain hopeful that these issues can be swiftly and fairly addressed in the interest of the people of the Turks and Caicos Islands. And we remind all involved of the words of the UN Declaration of 50 years ago, that inadequacy of political, economic, social, or educational preparedness should never serve as a pretext for delaying independence. In addition to the 7 Caribbean non-self-governing territories, the question of Puerto Rico has also occupied the attention of the Special Committee. The right of the Puerto Rican people to freely determine their own governance structure and relationship with the United States should also be viewed through the prism of the UN Declaration. Mr. Chairman, further afield, there are many vexing issues still before the Special Committee. The competing interests in the Malvinas, Falkland Islands, Gibraltar and Western and Sahara should not remain unresolved in this third decade of decolonization. I echo the United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon's call for greater effort and dialogue between and among the Special Committee, the administering powers, and most of all, the peoples of the non-self-governing territories. The work of the Special Committee cannot lapse into endless repetitions of tired positions or formulaic recitations of boilerplate language on decolonization. I humbly challenge the Special Committee to be creative and bold in moving beyond the current stalemates and in crafting unique, tailored solutions to the needs of all people still under some form of colonial rule. Mr. Chairman, the Special Committee is populated by members who share the collective memory and psychic scar of colonialism. The members of the Special Committee are also well aware that modern colonialism has evolved in recent decades into an equally insidious and pervasive form of economic and political domination that respects neither sovereignty nor territorial integrity. It does not require a generous reading of the UN Declaration to see its continued applicability to the emerging forms of neocolonialism, even vis-à-vis states that are, strictly speaking, independent. Nor does the Declaration require any special interpretation to extend its applicability to millions of people whose plight for political reasons the international community has chosen to ignore. But before we can focus on these modern manifestations of colonialism, we must first secure the fundamental and inalienable human rights of the remaining peoples who have yet to determine their own destiny. I trust that in the beginning of the third decade of decolonization, this conference will act in acknowledgement of the fact that it has a pivotal role to play in the ongoing struggle to eradicate colonialism. Let me once again paraphrase Bob Marley's Zimbabwe to say that arm in arm, we'll fight this little struggle. We got to fight, fight, fight for our rights. I thank you. Enjoy yourself.